Hi, Harriet. Have you ever been paid to be hate crimed?
No, anytime it ever happened for me, it was 100% on the house.
Well, I have, so let me tell you about it.
Hit me with it, Butch.
Okay, so yesterday I was at work serving this family that was sitting there like the three wise men.
You mean wise people? We live in a non-binary world. It couldn't possibly be the three wise men.
And then all of a sudden, out of the mom's mouth, I hear the trigger words, non-binary and gender fluid. Oop! And court is in session and my ears are turned on. Let's do this.
Okay, you see an opportunity to be offended and you're definitely gonna take it. I do not find this hard to believe by looking at you.
So basically, the mom was trying to explain to the dad what it meant to be non-binary or gender fluid. After a few minutes go by, the dad responds in the same way that every guy that looks like him would.
How dare you assume that because a person looks a particular way that that's the way that they would think. But then I'm guilty of it too, because when I look at you, I know it's gonna be some bullshit.
And says, you know, I understand where they're coming from, but if you're biologically a male or female, that's what you are.
No lies detected so far, Butch.
And then I'm standing there on display.
Looking like a mess, I might add. What are we doing?
So after a little bit of time, I march up to my colleague like I'm about to tattletale on a kid that just stole my toys.
Because that's basically what you're doing.
And she's like, yeah, I hate to tell you, the entire time they have been referring to you as he or him.
Well, I think maybe you should be happy about that because the rest of us would be like she and her and be like, what's this lesbo talking about right now? Also, I want to point out, this is not a conversation you were at all invited to. And situations like this always remind me of something my oldest sister once said to my mother when my mother caught us saying things that she would rather we not have said. My sister looked at her and said, and you see why you shouldn't eavesdrop? Because you might not like what you hear.
Great. So that adds a little bit of insult to injury. And before you ask, no, they didn't tip well. Anyway, thank you.
Okay, so I'm still waiting for the hate crime to happen. I am so tired of these people acting like a hate crime is hearing something that you don't want to hear or hearing something you don't like. Yeah, it may have gotten on your nerves. I don't know why really, especially if you identify as non-binary. To me, non-binary people should not get offended when they get mistaken for either or. I am not for the non-binary and all their shenanigans. I don't know what it is they're doing. I don't care what it is they're doing. It's only when they get online and pretend like they've been victimized in some way, especially saying something as serious as a hate crime. I think they should have to go through, no pun intended, but a scared straight type of program where they are forced to watch videos and hear stories about and from people that have actually been victims of hate crimes. Because this does not qualify as anywhere close to a hate crime. There was a family sitting at dinner talking about whatever they wanted to talk about. You inspired a conversation. Maybe you didn't like what the contents of that conversation were, but you admit that you tuned in so that you could hear what this conversation was about. But nonetheless, it was just a conversation and nobody said anything directly to you. So it's not even like there was a direct attack. It was just you overhearing something and you assuming that they're going to be a particular way is as silly as them assuming that you're going to be a particular way, except for they were right if they were referencing you because it turns out that you are that particular way. So now let's get to the second part of this. By the way, this is Ty Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. Before we go any further, I'm just going to ask that you like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to comment just to help me on the algorithm, but you don't know what to comment, just leave a knife. Because again, both sides are going to come for my neck, and I do not care because I have really began to think that everybody's stupid in the gender wars. And when I say in the gender wars, the other day I brought up Kellie-Jay Keen, otherwise known as the Posey Parker, on X, the artist formerly known as Twitter. And some people got mad because they said that I shouldn't say that she's basically grifting. Here's the deal, you guys. Every activist that I've ever seen starts off with very pure intentions, Kellie-Jay Keen included. There was a point where I did a video about Kellie-Jay Keen and I was very much in support of her. This was about a year ago. ago. But now she's just looking to continue problems so that she can continue a lifestyle. And some of you were like, she doesn't sell merch so that she can make money. Yes, she does. Stop being so naive. I get it if you support her. I get it if you like her. I get it if you don't mind her making her money. If you feel like, hey, Kelly, get your bag, then just say, hey, Kelly, get your bag. But don't make it seem like because I point out that she has turned into a grift that I'm somehow being a hater or not understanding. Like I said, I used to see how she had a point. Now sometimes she just goes after things that don't matter. Case in point, the other day I had to call her out on Twitter because she reposted this sign from the NHS, which is the National Health Service in England. And this notice they put out just says, are you currently pregnant or have you given birth in the last 18 months? NHS England is running a research survey to understand women and birthing people's early pregnancy experience and how digital can be used to improve access to maternity services, specifically self-referral. And then it gives out the information to join in on the study. The first thing you have to understand is when they do these studies, nobody really wants to participate. So they have to throw out as wide a net as possible. But I'll tell you guys what Kellie-Jay Keen tweeted this with the caption of, birthing people is dehumanizing and grotesque. If you can't call yourself a mother, you're not fit to give birth and become one. So I shared her tweet and included the text, see, this is a silly post to me. If it just said birthing people, that would be dehumanizing. But if it is addressing people that don't identify as women but have given birth as well as women, which it does, I don't see what's to argue. And that's something that Kellie-Jay Keen and the rest of her TERF friends are just gonna have to accept. And when I say TERF, I saw a couple people in the comments, women, that were like, they call us TERFs when they're trying to discredit us. No, all the people that have come after me on Twitter have had in their bio that they are TERFs. They identify as TERFs. So you can't all of a sudden turn it into some kind of hate speech or me being insensitive that I will actually call people what they are calling themselves. That's like if somebody referred to the queer community and I got like, they're calling us queer to be hateful. No, the queer community has started to identify as the queer community. Do I like the term queer? No. Am I going to turn my life into arguing that I'm not queer? No, I'm not. I'm just going to let people know, person to person, that I am not a part of the queer movement, but I don't feel like it's dehumanizing for people to refer to me as queer. But you do have to remember, different people are going to live different ways. So if there's a person that identifies as a trans man, which I've already talked about on a video before, we all know that that is still a woman. So when they say that they are a pregnant man, to me, that's ridiculous. But at the same time, am I going to turn my life into it? Am I going to act like it's such an insult to men? No, I'm not. All I'm going to do is make a video about it and talk about how silly it is. But if they identify as birthing people because they don't want to call themselves a woman because that gives them some sort of dysphoria, yeah, we could sit and argue all day. How does being pregnant not give you dysphoria? Does that not remind you of your biology and the fact that you are a woman? Well, in my opinion, it probably would, but at the same time, I'm not living their life. So what I was trying to get at, that we and the TERFs and everybody else are just going to have to understand, is that different people are going to identify different ways. And if you're going to start putting these boundaries on what it is a woman can and can't do, or what it is that makes it so that a woman or a person that is born female can and can't do, and when they can and can't do it, then you're going to find yourself in a sticky situation. Because you can't say that women have a right to have full agency over themselves, and then when a woman decides that she doesn't identify as a woman and would prefer to be referred to as a birthing person, that suddenly she doesn't deserve the right to be a mother. Suddenly she's not fit to be a mother. She could end up being a very good mother and just be a very confused person herself. That's something I've seen quite a bit in my life, especially when you're Gen X, because if you know the Gen X situation, a lot of girls in Gen X, and I do mean girls, got pregnant at very young ages. We were pretty much the last generation that was such a huge thing. Like when I was going to high school, my high school looked like a maternity ward at points, and I am not even joking. There were pregnant girls all over my high school. And now we as a society have moved towards not as many girls are getting pregnant at such a young age. And that is a good thing. But some of those girls girls grew up to be really good mothers. Something snapped for them, call it maternal instinct, but it snapped for them when they did have their kid, and suddenly they became responsible. Their kids are great, they're good mothers, and in plenty of cases, the mothers themselves turned it around and ended up having really good lives. And I know some women that started off as very young mothers that now live really good lives, make really good money, are able to support themselves and their families really well. So you can call it silly, you can say it's dumb, but who is anybody else, including Kellie-Jay Keen, to say if you can't call yourself a mother, you're not fit to give birth and become one? Well, here we are, Kelly, because plenty of these people are actually mothers. And like I said, this is just Kelly starting a fight that she doesn't need to start because she wants to keep her grift going. Anyway, let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. As always, this has been Ty Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world.
They bought into his bullshit.